At 41, Daniel was doing everything people tell you to do with money. He contributed to his 401k, he invested every month, he avoided expensive vacations. When his friends upgraded their cars, he kept driving the same 10-year-old sedan. When his coworkers talked about weekend trips, Daniel usually stayed home. He had one goal: retirement. And he had convinced himself that the more he saved, the safer he would be. By 41, Daniel had accumulated about $650,000 in invested assets. That sounds like a lot, but Daniel didn't feel rich. He felt behind. Every time the market dropped, he worried. Every time inflation pushed up his grocery bill or mortgage payment, he wondered if his retirement number had moved even farther away. And so he kept saving. Then there's Maya. Maya was 35. 4 years earlier, she had started investing seriously. She had built an investment portfolio of about $160,000. Then she changed her priorities. She wanted to help with family expenses. She wanted to pay down debt. She wanted to travel occasionally. And she didn't want every dollar of her paycheck automatically going into retirement. So she reduced her contributions. Her investments were still growing. She thought, I'm still investing. I'm probably fine. And here's where this gets interesting. Daniel may be saving more than he needs to. Maya may not be saving enough. But neither one knows the number that would tell them the difference. And that number matters, because Americans are already wrestling with this exact problem. In the Federal Reserve's latest household survey, only about 35% of non-retirees said their retirement savings plan was on track. So here's the question we're going to answer today. How much is enough? Not how much can you possibly save, not how much does the person next to you have, and not some arbitrary millionaire number, but how much do you need before your money can start doing most of the remaining work? Because there is a point where saving more becomes optional, and there is also a point where stopping too early becomes expensive. Today, we're going to find that line. Let's start with the number most retirement advice gives you. Your retirement portfolio needs to be large enough to support your spending without running out of money. For years, you've probably heard the famous 4% rule. Spend roughly 4% of your portfolio during the first year of retirement, adjust for inflation, and historically, that has been used as a rough framework for a 30-year retirement. So if you wanted $70,000 a year, you might hear $70,000 times 25 equals $1.75 million. Simple. But here's an important update. Current Morningstar research for 2026 puts a base case safe starting withdrawal rate around 3.9%, depending on portfolio mix and assumptions. That would put a $70,000 annual spending target closer to $70,000 divided by 0.039 equals about $1.79 million. Notice what happened. We went from $1.75 million to roughly $1.79 million. Not a dramatic difference, but it teaches us something important. Your retirement number is not a law of nature. It's an estimate based on assumptions. Your spending, your retirement length, your portfolio, inflation, market returns, taxes, Social Security, and how flexible your spending is. So let's call our illustrative target $1.79 million. That's the amount Daniel and Maya will eventually need in this example to support $70,000 of annual retirement spending under our base case assumptions. But here's the question most people forget to ask. Do you really need $1.79 million sitting in your account today? If you're 30 years away from retirement, probably not. And that's where the story changes.
Imagine two investors. The first puts $1,000 into an investment account. The second already has $500,000 invested. If both earn the same percentage return, the second investor's portfolio can generate dramatically more dollars from the same percentage gain. That's the part people underestimate about compounding. At the beginning, you are doing most of the work. Your paycheck funds the account. Your contributions push the balance higher. But eventually, something changes. The portfolio gets large enough that its growth can become larger than what you're personally contributing. And eventually, the portfolio can become the worker. You don't stop working because you suddenly became rich. You stop needing to contribute at the same rate because the capital you've already accumulated has enough time to compound. That distinction is enormous because it means financial independence isn't necessarily about reaching your final retirement number as quickly as possible. It can be about reaching the point where your existing assets can finish the journey without constant new contributions. That is the idea behind Coast-Fi. But there's a catch. And this is where most simplified Coast-Fi explanations go wrong. The number isn't the same for everyone. Let's say you want $1.79 million at age 67. If you're 36, you have 31 years. If your portfolio grows over those decades, you don't need $1.79 million today. You need enough today that, given enough time and reasonable investment growth, it could potentially grow into that final target. That amount is your coast number. The basic idea is simple. Start with your retirement target, then ask, how much would I need invested today if I never added another dollar and allowed the portfolio to compound until retirement? For our illustration, we're going to use a long-term assumption of approximately 7% nominal investment growth and 2.5% inflation, which works out to roughly a 4.4% real return. That is an illustrative planning assumption, not a guaranteed market return. And that's important, because your coast number is only as reliable as the assumptions behind it. Under our assumptions, someone with 31 years until retirement would need roughly $465,000 today to potentially grow to approximately $1.79 million by age 67 without additional contributions. That's the power of time. But now let's make this more interesting, because there isn't just one number you should know. If you want a clearer picture of financial independence, I want you to think about 3 numbers. Number 1, your retirement number. That's the portfolio you estimate you'll need when you stop working. For our example, about $1.79 million. Number 2, your coast number. That's the amount you need invested today for compound growth to potentially carry you toward your retirement target. For someone around 35 or 36 with decades left, maybe around $465,000, depending on assumptions. And number 3, your freedom number. This is the number that doesn't get enough attention. Your freedom number isn't necessarily the amount required to retire tomorrow. It's the point where your finances begin giving you meaningful choices. Maybe you can reduce your work hours. Maybe you can change careers. Maybe you can pay off your mortgage faster. Maybe you can spend more time with your children. Maybe you can stop saying no to every vacation. Maybe you can help your parents. Maybe you can invest less aggressively and sleep them. Financial independence isn't just, I have enough money to stop working. It's, I have enough assets that work doesn't control every decision I make. And that changes how we should think about saving.
Let's go back to Daniel. Daniel is 41. He has $650,000 invested. He's planning to retire at 67. He wants about $70,000 a year in retirement spending. Using our base case assumptions, his retirement target is approximately $1.79 million. With 26 years remaining, his estimated coast number is around $603,000. Daniel has $650,000. He's already about $47,000 above that coast threshold. That doesn't mean Daniel can blindly quit his job tomorrow. It doesn't mean markets can't fall. It doesn't mean taxes don't matter. It doesn't mean $70,000 will always be enough. And it definitely doesn't mean he can assume 7% returns are guaranteed. But under our assumptions, Daniel has crossed an important line. He may no longer need to save at the same aggressive rate. And yet Daniel is still working Saturdays, still skipping vacations, still driving the old car, still telling himself, I just need to save a little more. But what if a little more costs him something too? Time, experiences, family, health, freedom. This is one of the biggest lessons in personal finance. The goal isn't to maximize your retirement account forever. The goal is to build enough wealth that your money begins improving the way you live today. Saving is a tool. It is not the destination. Let's say Daniel decides not to stop investing. That's completely reasonable. He might continue contributing, but now he has choices. Instead of automatically putting every available dollar toward retirement, he could divide the next dollar differently. Some could continue going toward retirement. Some could pay down expensive debt. Some could build cash reserves. Some could go toward family goals. Some could be spent. And some could simply buy back time. That's the part financial independence conversations often miss. Once you reach a certain level of financial security, the question changes. Early in your career, the question is, how do I accumulate enough? Later, it becomes, what is the best use of the next dollar? And that is a completely different financial problem. Daniel doesn't necessarily need more money. He needs more clarity. Now let's look at Maya. Maya is 35. She has $160,000 invested. She wants to retire at 67. That's 32 years. And let's use the same retirement spending target, $70,000 a year. Her estimated retirement target is about $1.79 million, but her coast number is approximately $465,000. Maya has $160,000, so she's about $305,000 below her coast number. Her investments are growing, but growth alone doesn't mean she's on track. This is an incredibly important distinction, because Maya could open her investment account every month and see plus $1,200, plus $2,000, plus $3,500, and think, I'm making progress. She is. But the question isn't, is my money growing? The question is my money growing fast enough for long enough to reach my goal? Those are completely different questions. Under our assumptions,
Maya would need roughly $18,000 per year, or about $1,500 per month, in additional real contributions to move from $160,000 toward the $1.79 million target over 32 years. That doesn't mean she must save exactly that amount forever. Her income can change, her spending can change, her retirement age can change, markets can outperform or underperform, Social Security can become part of the plan. But now she has something she didn't have before, a number she can measure against.
Now we need to deal with the part that makes financial projections uncomfortable. What if the market doesn't deliver the return you assumed? This is where a coast number can become dangerous if you treat it like a guarantee. Remember Daniel? His coast number was about $603,000 using our base case real return assumption. But if real returns averaged closer to 3% instead of roughly 4.4%, his coast number would be closer to $856,000. Suddenly, Daniel's $650,000 portfolio isn't above coast anymore. He's below it. That's a huge difference. And this is why financial planning should never be, the market returned 7%, so I'm done. Instead, think in scenarios. Optimistic scenario, markets perform strongly, you may reach your goal earlier. Base scenario, returns are reasonable, you stay broadly on track. Conservative scenario, returns are lower, you may need more contributions, more time, or lower retirement spending. And that's not failure, that's planning. A good plan doesn't require the market to behave perfectly, it gives you room when it doesn't. There's another reason this matters. People love stories about extraordinary returns. Someone turns $9,000 into $35,500. Someone doubles an account. Someone discovers the next big investment. Those stories are exciting, but retirement planning is different. You don't need the highest possible return. You need a return assumption that doesn't force your entire future to depend on being right. The goal isn't, how fast can I get rich? The better question is, how much can I reasonably expect, and what happens if I'm wrong? That's financial literacy. And that distinction can protect you from one of the most dangerous mistakes in retirement planning, building a 30-year plan around a return that only works if everything goes perfectly. So let's say you've reached your coast number. What now? Do you stop saving everything? No. This is where the conversation gets more interesting. Your next dollar has choices. You could continue retirement contributions. You could pay down high-interest debt. You could build a stronger emergency reserve. You could invest in a taxable account for flexibility. You could spend more on experiences. Or you could support your family. And there's an important rule here. Coast-Fi doesn't mean ignoring tax benefits or employer matches. For 2026, the employee 401k contribution limit is $24,500, while the IRA contribution limit is $7,500, subject to the applicable rules and eligibility. But maximizing every account is not automatically the same thing as maximizing your life. Once you're financially secure, the decision becomes more personal. And this brings us to something the numbers can't fully measure: generational wealth. Imagine Daniel reaches financial independence. He doesn't just leave his children an investment account. He teaches them how compound interest works, why debt matters, why an emergency fund exists, why a high income doesn't automatically create wealth, why investing is different from gambling, why lifestyle inflation can quietly destroy a raise, and why money is ultimately a tool. That's a different kind of inheritance, because giving someone $100,000 can change their life. Teaching them how to manage $100,000 can change their family's future. Real wealth isn't only about what you accumulate, it's also about the knowledge you transfer. And this is where financial independence becomes bigger than retirement. It's about creating options for yourself and eventually for the people who come after you. So instead of asking, am I saving enough? Ask 3 better questions. Question 1, what is my retirement number? How much will I realistically need to support the lifestyle I want? Question 2, what is my coast number? How much do I need invested today for compound growth to potentially finish the journey? Question 3, what do I want my money to do after I reach it? That's the question almost nobody asks. Do you want to work less, travel, pay off the house, help your children, build a business, give more, or simply enjoy your life without constantly feeling guilty about spending? Because financial independence isn't about reaching a number and then continuing to sacrifice forever. It's about reaching a point where money gives you choices. And you can calculate your own starting point with 4 pieces of information: your current age, your target retirement age, your expected retirement spending, and your current invested assets. Start with your annual retirement spending. Estimate the portfolio you'll need using a reasonable withdrawal assumption. Then calculate how much that target would require today based on the time you have left and the return assumption you're using. Then compare that coast number with your actual portfolio. If you're above it, you may have more flexibility than you realize. If you're below it, you don't need to panic. You simply know that you have a gap, and now you can decide what to do about that gap. Save more, work longer, spend less in retirement, invest consistently, or combine several strategies. The important thing is that you're making the decision with numbers instead of fear. Remember Daniel? He thought he was behind, but under our base assumptions, he had already crossed his coast number. His next financial decision didn't have to be, how can I save even more? It could be, what kind of life do I want this money to create? And remember Maya? She thought she was fine because her account was growing. But once she calculated her coast number, she discovered that growth alone wasn't enough. She didn't need to become obsessed. She needed a plan. One person needed permission to stop sacrificing so much. The other needed a reason to keep building. And the difference wasn't intelligence. It wasn't luck. It wasn't even income. It was knowing the number. Here's the biggest lesson. There are two financial mistakes that can look completely opposite. The first is saving forever because you're terrified you'll never have enough. The second is stopping too early because your account is growing and you assume everything will work out. Both mistakes come from the same problem. You don't know where you stand. That's why your retirement number matters. That's why your coast number matters. And that's why assumptions matter. Your number isn't permanent. Markets change, inflation changes, your spending changes, your income changes, your family changes, your goals change. So revisit it, update it, stress test it, and make sure the plan still fits the life you're actually trying to build. Because the purpose of money isn't to create the biggest possible account balance. Money is supposed to create choices. The ability to say no to work you hate, the ability to spend time with your family, the ability to help your children without destroying your own future, the ability to weather a bad market without panicking, and eventually the ability to pass not just money, but financial knowledge to the next generation. So before you increase your retirement contribution again, stop for a moment. Ask yourself, what is my retirement number? What is my coast number? And most importantly, what do I want my money to make possible? Because maybe you haven't saved enough yet. Maybe you have. Maybe you're closer than you think. Or maybe you're already there and you just haven't calculated it. The goal isn't to save forever. The goal is to reach the point where your money can start finishing the job. And when you reach that point, the most important question isn't, how much more can I accumulate? It's, how much better can I live?